administrators, and give this board the wisdom to make the decisions to that end. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Call this meeting to order. There is a quorum present. The meeting is duly called. Appropriate notice has been given. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Need to approve all the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Presentations. All those in favor? Unanimous. Presentations. Elisa Jones and Facilities Master Plan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just to give you a little bit of historical background on the Facilities Master Plan, there was a lawsuit back in the late 90s between Governor Huckabee, the other Governor Huckabee, and a school district called Lakeview School District. And it dealt primarily with funding and the adequacy of the funding and appropriations of funds to school districts. And I did, but it yelled at me. So the Supreme Court of Arkansas ruled in favor of Lakeview School District and said that Arkansas schools were not adequate or equitable in both their funding as well as their curriculum and their facilities. Out of the aspect of the facilities, there was 8 mandates put out by the Supreme Court. One of those mandates was to do a physical assessment of every building in the state of Arkansas, school building. And then one of the other assessments was that each school district had to submit every year, and originally a 10-year facility master plan. It's now a 6-year master plan. And this master plan deals with projects that are short-term, mid-term, and kind of long-term. And in some regards, they become kind of a wish list, especially in your long-term. Things that you want to do at your district. We listen to community and board. And this master plan has to be submitted to the Facilities Division every February 1st. Now, there are 2 cycles. One is an even year submission and an odd year. We just submitted the odd year submission, and that is an update to our master plan. The even year submission is a little bit more in depth, and it also coincides with what's called the partnership program. It's a funding program that was started back in 2005 to assist districts with renovation and new construction projects. The partnership application that we looked at trying to get for our district here was the new high school. And in doing that, we knew that we were going to have to demolish certain buildings. We looked at having the division came up in August of 2021 and did what they called a FCI review. And Assistant Director Pace will go over that more. But it's a facility condition index review. They look at every aspect of the building and they determine if it is a building that can be renovated, or if it's one that would be served better to be demolished and replaced. And some of that falls on a fiscal threshold. If it's 65% or more to renovate as it is to build, then you flip to the build. We also had structural engineers come out and address some of our buildings. So we actually started thinking about this project in 2019. We spent 2019, 20, and then 21 kind of developing and guiding our direction on what we wanted to do with the high school. In August of 21 was when the facilities came up, and they did their review of all of the buildings on the high school campus. And then we submitted the application along with our facility master plan in February and March of 22. We found out the fall of 22 that the project had been tentatively approved. We're waiting right now for the legislators to appropriate funds, and that should come either the very end of April or May 1 at the latest, according to law. So the facilities master plan is an ongoing revolving plan. We're always adding projects to it, we're moving projects around, but in order to apply for partnership funding, we have to submit those applications in the even year. Now, it does take a while, so we're usually about a year and a half to 2 years prior to in the planning process. We work with our architect to develop a schematic of what we want. We run what is called a POR, which is a program of requirements to determine what can go into the new high school. That is a program that was developed out of that lawsuit, and you put in your highest projected enrollment numbers by grade, and it kind of promulgates how many classrooms you should have, how big those classrooms should be, and goes through the whole list. We then look at how much square footage does the district have that's still existing after we've looked at demolishing old buildings. And you verse that against how much you should have, and that determines if you have what's called suitability. Basically, you don't have enough square footage for the number of kids that you have. Once we looked at removing the buildings from the district that had met or exceeded that FCI condition, it left us with around 37,000 square feet of need. But that is based just on the enrollment population. It's not based on our curriculum. It's not based on the needs of the district. It is based strictly on those numbers. And this is something that's not unusual, that you see a district say, I need 100,000 square foot for a high school. The state says you only have X amount of kids, so you only need X amount. So the POR is a construction minimum and a funding maximum, if that kind of makes sense to you. So you can't build any less, but you're not going to get any more. So we have just submitted our master plan. We are waiting now, like I said, to the end of April, the 1st of May, to see about the funding from the legislative body and how much we're going to get from them. Our funding is determined by our wealth index in the community, and that's based on your assessed property value. I believe it's almost 40% state share, so it's 40 cents on the dollar the state would kick in on the approved amount of square footage. So any questions on the master plan itself? Okay, I'm going to introduce Assistant Director Terrell Pace. He will go through some of the aspects as far as looking at the FCI review and their program of requirements review.
I appreciate the opportunity presented for me to come up here to present on the partnership side of it and talk a little bit about the master plan, but Lisa did a great job doing that. So as Elisa stated earlier, the division was formed from the Lakeview lawsuit, 15-year lawsuit that stated that the state needed to provide adequate facilities. I want to point out one picture from our division FCI team that we sent in August of 2021. Right here, This is a great picture. I just was fortunate enough to be taken on a tour of this area of the building. And the initial concern that we have at the division right now are these two roofs, this one and the original, this 1969 and 1989. And our concern is that the heat, if it were to catch on fire, it pancaking down to this original structure here. So that was a huge part of our review, and as I'll later get into, the waiver letter sent from the district requesting additional suitability given back to the district. Do I have my PowerPoint ready? Yes, give me a moment, I'll load it. Okay. So the legislative intent, as Lisa went over, to ensure that the equal access to adequate educational facilities and educational equipment is provided for all public schools in the state of Arkansas. So that formed the division that I work in right now. And we operate under the supervision of the commission, which is based on the director of DF&A, Housing Authority, and our new education secretary. So we have in the facility division two major components. The master plan, which is turned in, required the district to submit their master plan on even years, February 1st of every even year, and follow up by a preliminary master plan. And then we have the partnership program that these programs, these applications are put together 2 or 3 years, 4 years, 5 years out in planning, in the planning process. That's why the master plan is so key, as Elisa stated in her presentation, in the partnership program. The applications for the partnership program are to be turned in March 1st of even years, and we started helping and assisting the district starting in August of 2021, prior to the 2022 master plan and partnerships submission. And at last, we have the facility distress, 621-811, and I'll go into a little bit more detail further on. Within the master plan, the key picture that the district provides is in tab 6, and it provides a past, present, and future aspect to what facilities should look like at your district. The partnership review, our division, it's very competitive. During the 23-25 review, and that's the cycle we're in right now, we reviewed 78 projects were approved and 63 were disapproved. So we put more stringent requirements in last rule submission, that we required more districts to submit CMMS work orders ensuring us that these facilities were maintained through work orders, through the maintenance program. And so we had several disqualified because we didn't see the evidence provided from the district to maintain their facilities. Going back to 21-23, we reviewed 209 projects. 80 of those were disapproved. 19-21, we had 158. Out of those, 125 were approved. And back in 2017-19, a total of 211. Of those, 162 approved and 49 disapproved. Here we have your school district's POR, Program of Requirements. And once we have a baseline with the FCI, this project was a space replacement project, And to give you a little bit how this program works, as Eliza stated, this high school, the student population here, based on your existing square footage, will give us what is needed based on that POR. And this project is approved for 37,500 square foot. So what we do, we send a team of our managers to a school district to verify the spaces on each campus. We don't want to assume in the application that the numbers are adequate. So we send our team on site every time to review an application as we did this one. So basically, we count every space that pertains to this project. And we ensure the need is there before we approve it. The Academic Facilities Wealth Index, it's a very complicated formula. 10 different components go into the school district share and the state share. So what we have, basically the wealth index goes up or becomes wealthier if you lose students or gain assessment. And the wealth index will go down, become poor, if you gain students or lose assessments. And right now, the state share here at Mountain Home, Arkansas is about 40%. And here's an example of a project and how we review it based on the square footage, cost factor, and how we get the SFP out of that. So we have the qualified project scope square footage. This is just an example, 10,000 square feet times 200. The cost factor is $200 a square foot. So you take the scope times the cost factor, 10,000 square foot times 200 to get this, which is your project qualifying cost. Well, to get the state financial participation, you take the project qualifying cost 1 minus the wealth index. Well, I've served 17 years in public schools in various positions, and I asked, what did that mean? So I tried to peel it back another layer when I present. So if your wealth index is 0.60, right, so you take 1 minus your 15-digit wealth index, which gives you this number here. So we take your project qualifying cost, $2 million, and times it by 1 minus your wealth index, which is this, and it gives you a number right here, which is your state financial participation. Okay, this project is a year one project. It's a 23-24 project. So when funding becomes available, let's just say May 1st, the district has 60 days from the commission funding date to get us a signed project agreement. And within 18 months, we require a construction contract to be submitted, and 4 years from the commission funding date, completed construction. Facility distress rule 4.01.1. There are basically two types of facilities distress, a material and a non-material violation. A material failure to properly align academic facilities in accordance with the state law and rules adopted by the commission. And it goes down to the material violation of a local, state, federal health or safety. And I'm not going to read all of these because I will touch base later, but just this is a kind of a high-level look of what our facilities distress rule looks like, and I'm going to talk about the millage side of that here moving forward. Facility distress with the failed millage in Section 6, and I just wanted to elaborate more on the timeline regarding this failed millage. This district failed to pass a millage that's required to fulfill its obligations under the school district's facility master plan on August 9th. So based on that failed millage, we have to respond to the school district within 10 days requesting a meeting between the district and the division. The purpose of this conference is for the division to determine what the next steps could be based on the needs. Determine whether, as a result of the failed millage, there are facility issues relating to the presence and number of suitability needs of public school academic facilities, which that is not the case here, because as Eliza stated earlier, your suitability is if you have too many kids and you don't have any place to put them, that would fall under that example. This is a space replacement project. It's not for immediate growth. Immediate need for academic facility to meet the student growth, and repairs, number 4 here. Immediate repair needs involving a facility that is necessary to resolve a deficiency that presents a hazard to the health or safety of students, teachers, and administrators. Any condition that may have a detrimental impact on the ability of the public school district to deliver an adequate education as described in Arkansas Code 620-2302, and thoroughly discuss and explain the sanctions requirements that are available to the Commission for the Arkansas Public School Academic Facilities and Transportation as required in 621-811. So the district fulfilled its obligation due to the failed millage by meeting with the facility division on September 2nd of 2022. And as part of the district's plans of action moving forward is to hold a second millage meeting early in 2023. So if a district fails a second millage, the division must determine the next step to determine the Rule 3.06 material failure, or Rule 3.07 a non-material failure. Academic facility distress classification, some of the things that could happen based on this rule. We could provide on-site technical evaluation and assistance to make recommendations to the district superintendent to provide the care and maintenance of any academic facility in the district. Any school district classified as being in facility distress status shall accept on-site technical evaluation and assistance from the division. 8.02, remove permanently, reassign, or suspend on a temporary basis the superintendent of the school district and appoint individuals in place to operate under the supervision and approval of the commissioner. Academic facility distress 11, school choice. Any student attending a public school district classified as being in facility distress shall automatically be eligible and entitled under the Arkansas Public School Choice Act of 2015 to transfer to another school district and not in the facility distressed school district, not in facility distress during this time period that a district is classified as being in facility distress. So 11.02 goes further. The student is not required to file a petition to transfer by May 1st, but shall meet all the other requirements. The resident district shall pay for the cost of transportation of the students from the resident district to the non-resident district, and the non-resident district shall count the student for average daily membership purpose. Possible facility distress sanctions: replacement of the superintendent, remove of the school board, state takeover, require district to seize all expenditures above adequate education and place in funds and facilities escrow accounts, and the state board may consolidate, annex, or reconstitute the district. Okay, this is a little bit of partnership history from this school district, and my eyes are getting worse as I get older. We have one 1920 project. I think it was a roof replacement, but since 2005, these are the projects that were involved. There's not a space project. This is the first one. So this is your school district existing facilities right here. And this campus summary report provides the location of the building projects, fine arts, original structure, the admin, classroom addition, the senior high school original structure, cafeteria, kitchen, student commons, and library. The scope of the project, the district reported in the master plan a need for a new high school. The district requested the division to inspect the current high school. The division agreed to the district's needs for the new facilities. As I stated earlier, the law requires construction must start no later than 18 months from funding. And again, this is a small piece of the whole story that went into this project because, you know, I won't steal the architects and the construction managers' thunder here, but just, you know, Mr. Siebert and Modis and the work that they helped and provided the division, Ms. Desiree Powell-Hewitt, the area manager, now the senior project administrator, they spent a lot of time on projects like this one. I mean, this was a very unique project that was, a lot of work was put into it. So at the bottom here, project may be funded May 1st. And that's when the timeline begins with your project agreement, your construction contract, and the project completion. We will, with the status of the cost, facility cost factors moving up, the inflation that everybody's in right now, it's the perfect bad storm of facility funding and construction in the state of Arkansas and across the nation. But we will provide waivers as we can to help the public schools as, you know, the design team gets more involved with it. But we'll review those on a project by project base. So this here, this approved square footage, the original approved square footage was around 23,000 before the district requested the division to look at the structure more closely and provided the Mr. Siebert's structural engineer's report that we granted to provide the additional square footage to get it to 37,440. So based on that and the cost factor of 200, the project qualifying cost approaching 7.5 million, your wealth index, state share, 40%. So we're looking at the state financial participation currently based on the current cost factors at 2.9. On-site inspections of facilities, August 2021, the FCI was done then, and what an FCI is basically every subsystem of your structure is reviewed, from your roof to your plumbing, wall systems, any cracking, any safety concern needs. All of these subsystems of a building is reviewed thoroughly by our FCI team, and then if it meets a 65% threshold, then we deem it approved for demolition. The other option for a project such as this is a complete renovation. And by the facility rule, what we define as a renovation project is the district to remove everything down to slab and steel. So with the cost factors as high as they are right now, that would be a very costly way to go in a project such as this one. Initially approved for 23,560 square footage of suitability. After the division sent the tentative approval, that's when the district submitted a waiver on October 7th, 2022, to include all other areas under the pre-engineered metal roof to be granted that suitability back. So concluding meetings of the division and district staff members, this waiver was granted on October 14th. granting the additional 13,800 square footage in suitability due to safety concerns with the fire safety. Some of our division pictures as we inspected in August of 2021. Have the original roof here of the buildings under the big top. And this picture is the one that I wanted to show you. I showed you first, the overhang roof that was built in 1989 over the original in 1968. That space there, that's not sprinkled. And the safety concern of if it were to catch on fire, it pancaking down on the original structure of the building. So I wanted to touch base just on the professional services other than the support from the division and Eliza. The structural engineers report and how very detailed it was submitted on September 2nd. And I apologize for the quality for the PowerPoint, but it basically was stated in that report, the things that I said were concerns with the safety, egress concerns of the structure. Here's some more detail, and I will leave copies available for the public through the administration here at Mountain Home. There's the schematic drawings. Another timeline we'll go over here with everything included. The district submitted the master plan February 1st, 2020. Partnership application March 1st, 2022. Tentatively funded for year one projects. The commission after the session, May 1st, coming up, 2023. And basing it off of that, if it were to be funded on May 1st is where we provided the district and community the timelines we're looking ahead for these projects. Signed project agreement. The project agreement is basically a contract of what the project was reviewed and funded to, and the construction deadline, 18 months, and the completed construction of April 28, 2026. And I appreciate the opportunity to explain that and the support that the district provided us through this process.
Do you mind, if I understand this correctly, we do have facility issues, and if we just decide to say, no, we don't want to do anything with it, at some point we're going to face dire consequences. The state's going to come and potentially remove the board and remove the superintendent. Is that what you basically told us here?
There will be a next step and a next conversation that will have to be.
If we decide not to do anything, we will have that conversation at some point.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
When looking
That
at,
will be an internal discussion, obviously, but that will be part of the discussion.
when our enrollment is used for these calculations, I would have assumed it would have been our high school enrollment, 9 through 12, and I noticed it was 10 through 12. Is that
That was based on the current grade configuration
of the building?
of the campus.
Okay.
Yeah. Now later on, after we get past this step and the second phase of this project, there could be some potential discussions on what we would waive on suitability when the district moves the students around.
Okay.
Mr. Pace, would you mind talking about the history? Because if you look at our facility master plans, you know, back 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, our wealth index was 97. Then I saw that on what we were approved of, I think it went to 90, and now we're at 60. What, is that just a change in the wealth index calculation, the way it's configured? How is that done?
the change in the wealth index was from 2019. So they wanted us to make the change over 2 years to where it is now, basically. And we just recently received the relative median income data for us to update the wealth index. And it takes the total evaluations, taking the value of 1 mil, 3-year average, the greater of the fiscal year ADM or 3-year average, the value of 1 mil per ADM, average daily membership, household median income, relative median income, and then before the districts and state share is calculated, we go and calculate the basic facility wealth index by dividing the district median income with the greater of the fiscal year it was assessed on. So it's a 10-step process, and you take the districts and state share, it becomes a 12-step process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person, Kevin Vaught from Stevens Inc. Sorry about that. Josh Siebert from Modus Studio, please.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for allowing me to come tonight and kind of explain our story a little bit as I get the PowerPoint ready. Just want to say thanks. We've been involved with you guys since early 2018 as we started our partnership program with the junior high re-roof. So as the public may not realize, we've been on campus for quite some time, and myself and the rest of the staff at Modus Studio have been able to help guide and do our best to help have a roadmap to the success of getting a millage passed. Reason why that's important from my perspective is we work with about 40 school districts at the state level. We actively have around 10 currently going on. We often get calls to come look at facilities, come look at where we're at, where we're going, and to assess these master plans as we go. So as an architecture firm would be, we would come in and start to evaluate what you have. Much like your campus, we often find ourselves on campuses that have inherited buildings of some time. Some buildings that are 60 years old, 80 years old, 20 years old, at different kind of arrangement of time. So we've often spent time looking at buildings, and when we started involving ourselves in the re-roof, we also started looking at your master plan. So tonight, I'm just going to share with the public a little bit, some of what you already know, but also the roadmap of where we're headed. So we began the process by evaluating the campus, and as everybody in this room, I think, can attest, when you spend time on campus, you can see a level of care that has been going on for years. There's a consistency, not with just materials and color, but a consistency about thinking about the academic goals of the campus and what's going to be the best learning environments for our children. So we were able to spend some time doing that. When we came across what we have now affectionately called the Big Top, the building in the middle, we started asking some questions about its lifespan. We started saying, you know, we have some concerns. When you go on top of that, you start to look at the evaluation of that building. We started looking at, usually a pre-engineered metal building is about a 30-year to 40-year maximum amount of life you should expect. This is a pre-engineered metal building from 1989 to 91, roughly, by the time it was in place. But we had some major concerns. So we brought this up. The schools looked at it, were able to kind of analyze why is it of concern. At the same time, we brought in a structural engineer. So as Mr. Pace had mentioned, we need to go ahead and check this, understand the calculations, understand why is it of concern. One of the things that in 1991, this building was not designed towards the code that we do in 2022, 2023. So some of the concerns are we do not know the loading capacity. We do not know the end of life cycle on it, but we can assess based on things that we know now. So we took it upon ourselves to bring in that structural engineer and ask questions about how do we grow with this? Is it even feasible to design around a renovation? Sometimes the easy answer is not always the first answer. The easy answer in this case was one that we looked at and said, if you were to grow your campus, where do you need to grow your campus? If you were to replace this building, how would you replace this building? And so it has led us to where we're at tonight with this idea that we need to be able to replace what we have. It's not cost effective to try to patch and repair or even get the efficiency out of the building. It's at its end of its life cycle, and therefore it causes a few more pieces of the puzzle to change around. So what do? We sit down and had programming sessions about asking questions with the staff and the teachers and students about what do they want in a new facility? How will we be able to provide you with a great facility for the next chapter in your district's life? These are some of the terms that come up. Some of them are concerns. Some of them are the bigger terms are, hey, this could be better if we had this. And so we analyzed this and spent a session in early 2020 and was able to sit down with the programming meetings with your staff and say, hey, these are the things that we need to be thinking about big picture. In doing so, we analyzed the idea of putting a new high school on campus. That would replace some of the existing buildings. The reason why this is largely important for tonight is we cannot actually take occupancy of this building, or we can't move into this building until we have the program that is being held into this current 85,000 square foot building to move over to it. So it's a game of where do we put the students? In doing that analyzing, we know that a new building has to be produced. This building is currently designed around that 85,000 square foot. It helps replace what we know is already under the big top. The main big pieces are the cafeteria, the kitchen, the service, the classrooms that we need to be able to have. There's 35 classrooms, labs, and even some outdoor space for that eating space. There is a few little spaces like admin that is currently in that building that needs to move over, library that we're currently replacing. So the reason why that's important is we've got to be able to have a new baseline to be able to move out of so that we can expand into the future. Knowing that we're moving into the future, we're not completely done. We have to start to say, okay, now we have to take down the big top because, again, it is in the way for us to be able to move everything over. In doing that, this is what the new facility could look like. This is obviously a very conceptual design. We spent time doing the schematic design of what that building could be. How does it work? How does it function? How does it meet the criteria that we talked about? And also how it starts to fit into the overall context of your campus, thinking about the existing materials, thinking about how it integrates into those program spaces that we're talking about earlier and the program requirements. So these are some conceptual views of what this space could look like. In going after the millage, one of the questions has been, okay, so what happens after the big top is down? What do we do there? Well, we're still inadequate from a space standpoint of what everything you need. There are spaces that are not appropriated until we get that down. And in doing that, that is bringing ninth grade over. There's 12 classrooms in this facility that house ninth grade. That frees up the room and space requirements that we were concerned about at the junior high. There's spaces in here that help for the academic success of both PE, the areas that we're having to replace. If you've been in the big top and you've grown up here, you've spent time in the practice gym, there are areas that are used for academic use and physical education that we need to replace because we'll be taking it down. So that area is in this as well, and that shows up a little bit into this overall plan. And for the public, to give you reference, this is the new high school footprint, and this is the expanded high school footprint of those spaces that I was talking about. So the ninth grade, the practice area, the student success area, so we have ROTC, different programs throughout that are currently going on in there that we need to make sure we backfill. In doing that, this provides an option of the phase 2 that has not been shown as much until now, of about 76,000 square foot that is needed. So again, if you do the simple math, you have 85,000 square foot that we are taking down, plus the buildings that were on campus, which are around 12,000 square foot. So we're going to be in a deficiency, so we have to build back the 85,000, and then we have to build plus adding the ninth grade over. That gets us the 85 new plus the 75,000 square foot of phase 2 options. And how is that as important tonight? We just wanted to kind of show conceptually into the public of what your new campus could look like by having all of these facilities, what it would look like long term. And so these are a few views that start to show that. And then some internally around where the cafeteria and some outdoor space, some areas around where the PE can go on, robotics, different programs that use this space that we currently need, and we currently have a little bit of, but we don't meet all the requirements that we're needing. And then what happens between the existing building? For instance, the gymnasium that you have currently, when we cut down that big top and everything that goes to the west, what does that space start to look like and how we integrate that and those connections therefore? These are just a few of the labs that we have inside the bomb squad, some of the robotics, maker spaces, and this is finally a view that would show the new campus as a whole. So again, your existing gymnasium, your phase 1, which is the new high school, and the phase 2, which is the backfill areas that we're deficient on. So with that said, tonight I'm just bringing that up, showing you kind of the overall view of where we're headed. It is our job to kind of sit down and focus and design towards your criteria. We've enjoyed being involved with you, and it's nice to be able to finally bring this to your attention and kind of show you what the overall big picture is if we can pass a millage. So I'll open it up for questions or thoughts, comments. Great. I had promised to take it, be short tonight, so we always can be long-winded, so if there's anything, we can have questions afterwards too. What's up? Yes, thank you. So with that recap, I appreciate that. We've got 160,000 square foot of estimated cost at $300 per square foot, which equals out to be the 48 million. There's also, as we're seeing, we're going to find that because of inflation, because of cost of construction, because of the way this starts to work, that also can go anywhere from $300 to $375 a square foot. I get this often. This question is asked, and it is forever going to be asked in my career. Well, can you do it for cheaper? How much cheaper can you do it? We built the last project for $125 a square foot. Even in my own career within the last 10 years, we have seen the price where $125 was the baseline 10 years ago. It's near impossible to build under $300 a square foot right now. The pandemic has showed that, construction inflation has showed that, supply and demand, labor cost, and anytime you use federal funding, there is also mechanisms that put it in prevailing wage rates that cause that money to go up. So again, we are seeing that these are the best, most adequate estimates of where we are and where we're seeing construction costs go in the market. So in doing this, this is our square footage that we are seeing that we need, and this is what we estimate the cost of construction having to be able to successfully put a project in place. Great. If no other questions, thank you.
Thank you. Next, Kevin Falk from Stevens Inc., finally.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. I want to introduce Michael McBride from our Little Rock office. He came with me tonight just in case like I had a heart attack or something, so he could fill in at some point. So Dr. Long and I have been talking since August, really, about some of the financing options. And so really this is a culmination of many months worth of work, really. In my presentation, I've been very brief here and tried to be very simple, but please interrupt if you have any questions. But if you go to the next slide, I'll kind of walk you through this. So you can see your current millage structure, 25.29 M&O mills, your debt service mills of 6.87 for a total of 32.16. You can see there the average millage rate in Arkansas is 38.76. Just done a simple calculation so your patrons and everyone would understand how what 1 mill is, and you can see it's 1/10 of 1%, or as a decimal, 0.001. So if your personal property and real estate is valued at $100,000, in Arkansas, you're assessed at 20% of your value, and so that's very important. I don't think most people understand that. So $100,000 house assessed at 20% or $20,000 times .001 gives you $20 per mil. And you can see there in Mountain Home, your current millage, or excuse me, current assessment is $699 million. So 1 mil at 95% collections produces $664,525. If you'll go to the next slide. Just something that Dr. Long and I have talked about frequently, just how you compare with other districts in the state. You can see now this is based on similar enrollment. The only district really close to you there is El Dorado at 33.5. You're obviously the lowest on this chart. I did not include this, but just for your information, in Baxter County, only Mountain View is lower at 28.91. So Cotter's closest at 32.67, but Norfolk, Viola, and Calico Rock are Norfolk at 37.39, Viola over 40, and Calico Rock over 42. So you're significantly lower than most districts in the state, for whatever it's worth. So next on the financing options, we looked at two different options, 2.25 mil increase. Dr. Long has had some initial discussions that with your assessor's office that your assessed valuation in 2023, is that correct, Dr. Long? $730 million. So again, back to that 95% collection rate that I showed you earlier, we're assuming, and also a final maturity of 30 years or 2054. Your election, obviously, assuming you choose to move forward May 9th of 2023. Our interest rates, you know, I've double asterisked that, and also the construction fund, because this analysis is contingent on those rates at 4.25. Right now, that's a pretty good rate, but it's done a lot of this over the last year or so. We're actually in an environment where the rates are coming down some, so that's a good sign. Even though you saw the Fed's raising rates by a quarter point this week, we actually saw some improvement that came back the next day, went back up. But the Fed thinks what they're doing, I think, is working, and so that's starting to drive down interest rates, at least bond interest rates, here in the short term. So based on that interest rate and based on 2.25 mils and the assessment assuming of $730 million, that gets us a construction fund of a little over $54 million. Now that's also assuming that you're going to utilize some of your debt service surplus. So out of your 6.87 debt service mills you are using, as you can see there in the slide, you're currently using 1.8 million of that, or excuse me, you generate 1.8 million surplus. We're going to utilize about 700,000 of that in this scenario for debt service to get to that 54 million. Does that make sense? Okay. So option two, at the bottom of this, if we can go to the next slide, you can kind of see, you'll remember I said assessed valuation at 20%. So if your property is valued at, you can see on the right-hand side there, 100 all the way up to 300,000, what that 2.25 increase in mills will cost your patrons. So $45 a year if your house is valued at 100, all the way up to $135 a year if you're at 300,000. So you can see the breakdown of, even on the high end of 300 is about $11.25 per month. Does that make sense? Okay. So next slide, again, option two, 2.75 mil increase, same assumptions here, 730 million assessed valuation, same collection rate, same maturity, election, all that, interest rate as well, assuming a 60 million, so that would take that 2.75 mils to generate that. Again, we're going to utilize a significant amount of your so-called surplus debt service millage to make that payment. Now, as you all know, and I didn't say that a minute ago, you know, the district's using those debt service mills somewhere, obviously. Because your millage rate is so low, you do have the luxury of having a nice assessed valuation, but since your millage rate is so low, you're relying on those debt service mills for operations. So I know you all know that, but I wanted to point that out. And then finally, at the bottom of that, the next slide, you'll see the impact on a 2.75 mil increase on your patrons, $55 per year, if you have a home valued at $100,000 all the way up to $165 per year. So that really concludes my financial part. Is there any questions on any of that? I hope that was self-explanatory. I'm sorry? Yeah, next slide, please. I'm sorry. So now, obviously, I didn't draft this. The attorneys did. The law firm of Friday, Eldridge & Clark is your bond attorney. They do probably 99.99% of all schoolwork in the state. So there's one other firm that does a few districts, and that's about it in the entire state. So you can see the draft. I'm not going to certainly read this to you, but each draft for your 2.25 mils and your 2.75 mils of the ballot language. So this language, just so you know, and you may remember from when we did this last year, is at the bottom of your proposed budget. So this is basically the ballot language. That's at the bottom of your proposed budget. Assuming the district wants to move forward, the school board would have to adopt the proposed budget, which includes this language, either 2.25 or 2.75. We've highlighted there at the bottom, just so you can see, maybe point out how it's a little different with this district than we typically do. I'll point you to the third line that starts from not the very bottom, but the next up, if you can follow me. It says surplus revenues produced each year by the new 2.25 debt service mills may be used by the district first for the scheduled payment of principal and interest on the bonds, and second for the maintenance of improvements to the school facilities. Same language applies to the 6.87 after your 2018 bonds pay off in 2038. I wanted to point out, and Dr. Long and I and the attorneys talked extensively about this, this is not typically how it's done. In fact, I had a conversation with the attorney today that the younger attorney that I work with, who's not that young anymore, but he's the junior person in that office, and he has 20-plus years experience. The other gentleman has 40 years experience. They've never done it this way. If you'll remember from last time, you probably don't, but it said surplus, and I'll just read it to you if I can pull it up. Surplus revenues produced each year by the debt service millage may be used by the district for other school purposes. So specifically, when you point out that it has to be used for the maintenance of for the maintenance of improvements to the school facilities, that means that's what it has to be used for the entirety of the bond issue. So 30 years, assuming this passes by the voters, that's what that money has to be used for. So that limits you that you can't issue any more debt during that time frame unless you go back to the voters. Now, I just want you to be aware of that. So typically, districts in Arkansas have the option to issue what's called second lien bonds, and you have capacity to issue about, right now, 14 million or so in second lien debt. And that's just something that's allowed under state statutes so that a district can do that administratively. The board could adopt that without having the voters approve it. So that just gives you some flexibility in the future. So just so you know, if we stay with this language, you won't be able to do that at all. No district, no school board going forward would be able to do that for the next 30 years. Does that make sense?
So what you're saying, this has not really been done before?
So
Based on what we're asking for is money to pay for a building. And when it's paid for, not extending. Is this precedent setting in bonds or what?
Well, typically, it's just not this specific because, again, typically the language says for other school purposes to give you the option to spend that money elsewhere. So in other words, as I mentioned earlier, your 6.8 debt service mills, I assume you're using it in other areas, not just maintenance of the schools.
So if I say we're asking for money to pay for a school, that's what it means, correct?
Correct, yes, sir.
Thank you.
But you also mentioned, and so, no, sir, it's not been done. It's not been done, I think, was what you started to ask too, in this language anyway. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're going to take a short recess. During this time, individuals interested in making public comments tonight may come forward to sign up to speak. Before we begin the signups, I want to remind you that this is not a question and answer session, but it's simply a time to make public comments. There will be no back and forth between the Mountain Home School Board and speakers. Public comments must be related directly to the topic at hand. We will alternate between speakers who are for and against the potential millage increase. When we know how many speakers we have, we will let you know how long each speaker will have to share. When your time is up, we ask that you immediately move from the podium in respect to everybody else's time. Please maintain appropriate respectful language in the settings. Throughout this public comment section, notes will be taken by Mountain Home Public Schools Administration, and an informational document will be provided. Clarification on any points of concern or confusion will be published at a later date. Those interested in speaking may now come forward and sign up, which you already have. Everybody return to your seats, please. Everybody return to your seats, please. Sorry about that. We're returning from recess. We'll allow the next 45 minutes for public comment. There'll be 13 speakers that are listed, which means that each speaker will at least get 3 minutes to speak. Ms. Crawford will call the next speaker to the podium, and we will notify you when your time limit has reached. Please vacate the podium as soon as your time is exhausted. Ms. Crawford.
We'll begin with Melissa Steiner in support of the millage.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Steiner, and I'm currently in my 42nd year in Mountain Home Public Schools. I attended 12 as a student, and I'm now in my 30th year of teaching. I am a proud Bomber through and through. Like myself, many former students have come back to Mountain Home to start families and raise their children as future Bombers. All of these students, including myself, have attended the current high school. Even when I was there, the building had serious problems with flooding. We can all agree the building was a bad design from the beginning. We can say what should have happened and what could have been done over the years, but none of that matters. What matters is the building that our students currently attend is inadequate and needs to be replaced. The safety of our students in this district should be everyone's #1 priority. Sending our children to a clean, safe, structurally sound, fully functional facility is not frivolous. Providing a facility to our teachers and students where they can reach their full academic potential should be a priority. Maya Angelou was quoted as saying, "Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better." After what we've been told tonight about our aging building, we know better. We cannot deny that the condition of the high school is a problem. We cannot wait for something to happen and say that we didn't know or realize how bad the problem was. We all know. There never has been and never will be a good time to ask for a millage increase. But over the many years I've been here, voters have stepped up and believed in this district when we've asked for help. I support Dr. Jake Long and the Mountain Home School Board in asking for a millage increase. I also implore the voters to realize you cannot put a price on the safety of our children. We know better. Let's do better.
Thank you. Now we'll have Ed Boiteau speaking against.
Well, I can tell you that I don't know if I'm for it or against it, so I signed up on one of the sheets, and I'd like to actually have a question. Sitting here, listening to the presentations, which I thought were very informative, and thank you very much for putting on this public forum. The first impression I had after listening to it is that it seems like we've gone from warp speed from we have a roof issue, and now we need a new school, and we need to spend $60 million. And that may be correct, but that was my initial impression. The question I have for the architect, who talked about structural engineering, review of the facility, and some concept work that he's done, the question I have is, have you done an engineering and architectural feasibility study to keep the existing building, fix the structural integrity issues of the roof, get it up to code, and upgrade and expand that facility and existing facilities to meet critical needs? That's my question.
Should I answer? Do I?
We'll take it down and you probably can answer that afterwards. Yeah. We'll take it down and publish it, okay?
It's not, this will not, it's not a question and answer.
Well,
We will answer your question.
I think the horse is way before the cart. I mean, the cart's way before the horse on this one. If you can't answer that question, do we have to spend, what is the cost for what I just outlined that would keep the existing facility, meet the critical needs space-wise, bring it up to code? What percentage of the $60 million would be necessary in order to accomplish that? And I think the voters really need to know the answer to that question before they go to the polls. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boiteau, and that was a fantastic question, and we will be publishing a document to address some of these questions in the future. And now it looks like we have Ms. Mary Walker, Colonel Mary Walker, in support.
To answer your question, sir, the state wouldn't allow them to do that because the structure does not meet the integrity. And he discussed that, and the lady from the state discussed that with you. I grew up in
Excuse me,
poverty.
they can't hear you there. You need to talk facing the
I grew up
microphone.
in poverty. My father was a coal miner in Appalachia. I was number 8 of 9 children. My father had a 6th grade education. My mother had an 8th grade education. I started working when I was 14, babysitting and cleaning people's houses. At age 18, I became a waitress in a diner in North Philadelphia. The waitresses there told me, continue on with your education. You don't want bad feet, bad back, no benefits, no health care. So I paid my way through 2 years of school before I joined the Army. I followed my mother's lead. She says, be honest, work hard, and get an education. Because the way out of poverty is an education. We have working poor in this community, in this county. There are 75 counties in this state, and Baxter County has the 17th largest population of any county in this state. We have a great medical center. We need to ensure that this community stays strong. We need to make sure that the children we are putting through our school system today have what they need to meet this fast-changing, technology-driven world and economy that we live in. I am a retiree. I understand all these retirees, and I guarantee you, a lot of you tonight moved here from someplace else where you were paying a hell of a lot more money, millage rate, for your school systems and your taxes. The average across the nation on real estate taxes, millage rates, is 1%. And we are even less. We're like 1/3 of 1%. So we should not gripe. If you have a $100,000 house, your rate is $20,000. What's that? A McDonald's hamburger extra? Well, dear, those high school students today, they are your future nurses, EMTs, plumbers, electricians, the people that are going to care for you as you age.
Okay. Thank you
We
very
have
much.
a great medical center, and people moving here to work at that medical center
Time's
want
up.
the good
Thank you.
school system for their kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have Mr. Bob Wielding speaking again.
Good evening. My name is Bob Weidling, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I was in the fire service through most of my life there, a fire marshal, and I was involved with fire and life safety codes and standards and stuff. And I would say underneath the big top, just seeing the photographs with the roofs and everything. Basically, you got a fire trap down there. And I could support this referendum if I knew all the bells and whistles of the fanciness. I look at the architect putting a picture up there on there, what the proposal school could look like. You got all the glass. Glass is one thing, is a loss of energy, and it's expensive to put up. Plus, you got to heat and cool within that school. When you put balconies up in the school, more expense and everything. And I understand architects like it because they make more money in fees too. But again, if you get rid of the bells and whistles, I could support it. And when I look at this building right here, this is a fire trap. And I state that statement for one reason. I see no detection in this building. And I've gone into the hallways, I checked the gymnasium over here. It doesn't have detection or a sprinkler system in it. So basically what would happen, we get a fire in this building right now. What would happen, it'd be rolling through the false ceiling up here from the metal to here, and we wouldn't know about it until the ceiling came down, just like the classrooms over here. And you got classrooms back there with the janitor said. Cut the wasteful spending out. Bring this up to code. The new code buildings will have to have a sprinkler system and a detection alarm system in it up to code to the National Fire Protection Association code, according to the state fire marshal's office there in Arkansas. But again, cut the fat, use common sense. We're going through economic hard times right now in this country, and take that under consideration. And I think if you do that, I think your referendum will pass. But you need to cut the fat, the glamorous things out, because too many school districts I've seen through my life, we got to keep up with the Joneses. And we can't do that here. People are struggling out there. Go to the grocery store. But just cut the fat, get these fire traps taken care of, because they don't comply to code. They do under existing, yep, you're getting by. But they are not safe right now. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we have Ms. Patty Bell in support.
Good evening. It's so great to be here tonight, and my name is Patty Bell, and I'm teaching my 36th year in this district, and I just want you to know over the years I've seen changes in our school. Schools like homes need updating, and if they need updating, you move into larger or smaller houses. Our high school is so tiny, it won't even hold our freshman class. When I went to school, high school was 9th through 12th. We all know that I've listened to the safety features tonight, and it's got my heart just thumping. We want to keep our kids safe, we all do, because we love them so much. I put two kids through this school district, and they loved every minute of it. And now I'm raising 2 grandsons. I have 1 grandson in the 9th grade this year, and he's taking some high school classes along with a lot of his friends. They either bus down here to take classes, or they walk the gravel road down here. And we know that's not safe. Anybody could drive by and hide. I've seen too much on TV about protection of schools. And we know that a lot of stuff they never show on TV. This is a huge safety risk. I worry about school shootings. It is impossible to keep all these school doors locked. And I'm in a small building, and I'm right beside an exit. And it's hard to keep that when I check it myself several times a day. We practice lockdown procedures in every classroom in this district, thank goodness. We have wonderful SROs. But let me tell you, when you're having a lockdown drill in your building, it's serious, it's scary. You have kids cry, they start shaking. Imagine being the teacher in charge of 25 kids and gunshots are heard in the hallway. Teachers run, double lock their doors, and they close the curtains, and the kids are called to the corner to sit on the floor with the lights out. And no one is talking. We practice these drills so they know what to do. This is as serious as school gets. Mountain Home High School, along with the other buildings in this district, are doing everything we can to keep our kids safe. And I want this community to stand behind us and make high school safe. We need that. You know, during these lockdown drills, we never know if we have all the kids. I am counting heads as
10
fast as I
seconds.
can. Thank you for your time, and please vote for this millage. What's going to happen if our kids are outside if there's a shooter?
Thank you.
We got an official timekeeper up here? Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yes, we don't need any assistance in the timekeeping department. Thank you. Okay, now we will see Ms. Sheila Atchley against.
Not that I'm so much against, but I just wanted to bring up some practical matters. I have a list of over 105 taxes that we pay on a yearly basis. If anybody wants a copy of that, see me afterwards. I'll email it to you. Now, we are overtaxed in this country, and we are in an economy where meat has tripled in cost. Our utility bills are 3 times the amount. So you're doing this at a time of ask that makes it very difficult for a lot of families. Now, I don't understand why we have the lottery in the state that primarily is supposed to go to schools. We also have an unretired tax mill from the 90s or the late 80s that has never been retired. Where does that money go? I'm asking where all of this money goes, all the taxes that we pay. We should be able to tap into that. We get federal money, we get state money for the schools, from all of these taxes that we already pay. And you're going to have students that are going to come up here and plead that they really need to have this. Those students are going to be out of the school and graduated by the time this construction is over. And when they go away and they come back and they start families, they're going to be paying on that tax bill that other 30 years from previous plus this one. You have to think about those things. You have to think about the future, not just what you need with all your bells and whistles that you're wanting to add. I'm in agreement with Bob that just stood up here about the fire codes. He too knows that we need to cut the fat and do what's necessary, but don't put in all the fluff. We don't need it. And those that are opposing it, they are not school haters or child haters, Bob. I listened to the audio by you. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Atchley. And now we will have J.R. Bergenstock in support.
Hey, good evening and happy Monday, y'all. My name's J.R. Bergenstock. I teach here at the high school. I've been here about 4 years. I teach computer science. Man, and in that time, I've just seen some amazing things. We've got amazing kids at our school, and yes, I know that a lot of the kids that this is for that are here that we're talking, this might not affect them, but a lot of these kids that I have work with other kids and mentor 6th graders. This year I took on the responsibility and the pleasure of being the lead mentor for Bomb Squad. And for those of you who don't know what Bomb Squad is, we're Team 16, First Robotics, 2012 World Champions. I said world. 2012. I have high school students on my bomb squad that mentor 6th and 7th grade students on Lego League teams. So these kids that go out and they work with these other kids. These are the programs that we're trying to build. We're working on building programs for these kids. So what we work on is and FIRST teaches kids all kinds of stuff. They teach them gracious professionalism. They teach them how to get along, how to work together, and there's a lot of problems, a lot of problems that we can solve as teams and working. When you go to a FIRST event, nobody fights, nobody argues. You ever seen a competition where as soon as it's over, the losers go down and dance with the winners? I've watched 150 kids from 2 countries dance, and these kids lost, and they danced. One of the issues that we have at Bomb Squad is our building has been moved 5 times. We're not asking for fluff. We're asking for a place to build robots. Right now, we're in week 5 of the robot season. There are 3,500 teams in the world competing right now building robots. We're in week 5. These people right here thought enough of it to miss our meeting to stop building robots to come talk and to come support what we do. What we would like to have, and we would like to see us build, one of the things they talk about is putting it where our building is on campus. These high school students, we can't even work on this on campus. We have to go off campus over by Pinkston because that's where our bomb shelter is. It'd be really nice if we could have a place where all of our mentors could come. We have 3 different leagues. We have a FLL League, FIRST Lego League, FIRST Tech Challenge, and FIRST Robotic. And so this is for middle school, junior high, and high school kids. We all meet in separate places. We have mentors that mentor all 3 groups from the community. We have engineers from Baxter. We have other companies in town that people come work with these kids. Amazing things happen. I invite any of y'all to come by on Monday night and see what we're doing. But I'm for it, and I'm trying to support this because it would be awesome if we could have a place where we could all work at the school together and we wouldn't have to be off campus, and our mentors could mentor each group of kids. And what we would like to do is encourage people to be engineers and encourage people, these kids, that when they graduate to come back and pay taxes here and be part of the community so that we could attract more people to come support our school. And the way you do that is by having a really nice high school.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Okay, and now we will have Ms. Angela Lee, I believe. Forgive me if that's... Okay, thank you. Angela Lee against.
I don't know if I'm for or against at this point. I've heard a lot of things that make me not want to support it. But if this does pass, you're asking me as a business owner to pay my tax dollars to help bid this school. One of the things that has upset a lot of business owners in this town is that when you built Hackler, you gave those jobs to other cities, to employees that do not live in this town. So I would hope and I would implore and beg you that if this bond passes, that you give those jobs to your local contractors, your local landscapers, your local builders, your pavers, your concrete, whatever, because we're the ones paying that money. And if you want us to pay that money, give us the jobs to help pay that money.
Thank you.
Now we have a group, and it looks like they are Bomb Squad students: Emma Sanborn, Olivia Martin, and Garrett Robinson.
Hello, my name is Olivia Martin, and I am a senior on Bomb Squad, and these are 2 juniors, Emma and Garrett on Bomb Squad. I have grown up in the Mountain Home School District, and in Pinkston, one of my literacy teachers taught me, give a man a fish, she eats for a day, teach a man a fish, she eats for a lifetime. Emma and I teach these middle schoolers that Mr. B was talking about, and we are really proud of them, and we want the future generations to be able to come to this school and enjoy everything that they're having, be able to have the opportunities that all the opportunities they can, FIRST, anything in sports, just anything that they can have. Like, our school has a lot of stuff that's available, but our space provided separates everything that we have. And if we can bring all of that together, that can really bring in our community and bring everything like everybody's talking about. It can keep our children safe. Like, I want to be safe at school. Like, knowing that the roof can collapse right now. That's terrifying, sitting in school and thinking about that. Like, my friends who are going to be in school for 2-3 more years, my cousins, sophomore.
Speaking on Bomb Squad itself, those Lego kids that we're teaching and helping, they are going to Australia because of all the work that they have put in. If we weren't here, if the high schoolers weren't here, if the kids weren't there themselves interested, this opportunity would not happen. We are going to represent not only Mountain Home, not only Arkansas, we are one of 3 teams in the entire country that are going. And it's because of like our team together. Without that, there wouldn't be anything. So bringing us together, putting us in, like, if we had a facility that we could all work in together, the amount of growth that we could have would be so much more. And to put some numbers to it, we had 18 kids on the team last year for FRC. This year, we have 28 kids and 20 mentors. That is almost a 1-to-1 ratio, which is, in terms of engineers to students, that is incredible, and it's amazing. But we are running out of the space that we need to work. Like, last year with the 18 kids, it was kind of cramped. This year, it's a lot. We don't have the room that we need to do what we need to accomplish. And in terms of future and career, alongside that, 10 of our 18 kids last year were seniors. 9 of them went into engineering, and 1 of them went into computer science. Half of those kids didn't assume that they were going to go into those fields until they joined this program, and this program has given them the opportunity. So if we can grow it to where more students can be in it, they can set up careers and then come back here to this town and work and grow this town.
Thank you.
Okay, the remainder of the speakers will be in support. It looks like Stone Ramsey will be next.
Hello, my name is Stone Ramsey. Last year I got out of 9th grade and recently went into Main High School building. The 10th grade has been a huge change. I got a small introduction to it due to my last year at high school, mostly because I spent half of my schedule down there. I had a good year, however, some parts of it were harder than others. It was very hard to get down to class. Students that came up from the junior high were usually about 10 to 15, sometimes even 20 minutes late, depending on the class. This is mostly due to the time that it takes to load, ride, and unload the shuttle bus. In addition to that, the bus was never able to contain all the students riding down the hill. My 3rd and 4th block classes were on complete opposite ends of the high school campus, making it very difficult to get from one end to the other. My 3rd block class was geometry, which was a core class, so I was not able to get out early in order to get to football on time, which is my 4th block class. In addition to that, my inclusion with the rest of the upperclassmen was nearly non-existent. My freshman year, being excluded with the high school meant that I was not in with the high schoolers, meaning that I did not have the relationships with the teachers and students necessary to continue on a healthy high school time. I support Dr. Long and the Mountain Home School Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Stone. And next we'll have Ryan Amick.
Good evening. I'm Lieutenant Ryan Amick, a member of the Mountain Home NJROTC program and a high school junior. I kindly ask that our school board community in support of the millage proposal. Since I've joined NJROTC, our program has more than doubled, and this year about 120 cadets have joined our squadron. This has been our most successful year during our competitions. Since I have joined, I hope we improve each year. In under the direction of Chief Williams in the past 2 years, this program is growing and expanding rapidly. It is providing a place for students to participate in physical training, learn to work as a team, gain leadership skills, form discipline, and develop a strong work ethic. Because of the condition and size of our current school, we do not have enough space to currently practice for our events and prepare adequately for our competitions. We share the gym space with all other sports currently offered at our school. This means virtually no gym time is available. We practice 2 teams a day, so even if the gym is available, the other team has to go outside. As many of you know, we need lots of space to practice marching formations, set for marksmanship practice, work on physical training, and work with our armed teams where we spin our rifles. When we can, we practice outside, but much of our preparation and season occurs during the fall and winter months. This means our practices have to start around 6 p.m. due to lack of sunlight, and we also have battle of the elements. We cannot practice in very cold temperatures because we have had many cadets injure themselves in the cold temperatures spinning the heavy rifles. Our marksmanship program has a setup on the ROTC room, and due to the sheer size of it, we have to split the practices up into 2 days. We are quickly running out of options and classroom space as our program continues to grow. Our current facility is in such disrepair, it is not only an embarrassment to our community, it's unsafe. We spend hours training to better ourselves and represent our school and town in a positive way. We are very proud of the work we have done. It is a shame for those efforts to be overshadowed at our meets by our dilapidated facilities. Rather than focusing on the spirit of competitions and achievement, the spotlight is shined on our outdated, inefficient building. I want our facilities to reflect the pride we have in our school. I implore you to consider a millage increase for our facilities so it can create a thriving program and reflect a wonderful facility and students in our school. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Greg Jones.
Hello, my name is Greg Jones. I'm one of the Joneses it's not hard to keep up with. I've been working in the maintenance department for the last, well, I'm going on 24 years now. When I originally moved here, I had 3 sons. By the time we were done having kids, I had 5 sons. 3 of those, 2 of them are mechanical engineers. 1 is working on becoming a mechanical engineer. Because of our robotics Team 16. And, you know, that's not the only thing I have to say. One of the things I have to say about our structures, or mainly our plumbing in that area. We have a lot of areas where the plumbing is old pipe that's starting to collapse under the ground. In our kitchens, we have P-traps that have eroded away. And we have to keep our drains, our floor drains covered to keep the sewer gas from coming up. In my opinion on that is we can put a Band-Aid on it. We can spend all hundreds of thousands of dollars on fixing this stuff just to still have a crumbling structure underneath. So that's why I'm for it. I noticed that we spend more and more of our time not in the rest of the district, but focusing more and more on the high school. So, like I said, I'm easy to keep up with. I'll keep it under three minutes. Thank you very much.
Okay, and our final public comment for the night is listed as 5th grade girls, and I believe these are the young ladies we saw when we came in the door earlier this evening. There they are. And girls, if you'll tell your names.
Good evening. My name is Samira Gassama. My name is Lola Fulcher. And my name is Sophia Kaminsky. Today we're talking about why we need a new high school. To start us off, Sophia will be talking to us about school pride.
School pride is an important part of building a successful school community. When students have pride in their school, it gives them a sense of ownership, which sets in motion a range of positive behaviors. Students with school spirit do more than show support for their school. They perform better academically and more social and critical engaged and are happier in their general life. less spirited peers. The majority of principals, which is 92%, feel that the high school spirit is tied to high student achievement. A strong sense of school pride is a win for everybody. Teachers and facilitators will have newfound joy when coming to work at the new school every day. Will feel they are cared about and listened to in their wants and dreams for a new school. Next will be Samir with community.
Community. A new high school will bring more professions and better professionals to the area. For example, nurses and doctors are a big need for the older generations. That makes up a big part of the community. High school is perfect opportunity to figure out your strengths and interests and set yourself up to become a successful member of the community. Next, Lola's going to be talking about growth.
Growth. Arkansas is pro-school choice. A better and nicer school could mean more students will want to attend. As the community grows, the school needs to be able to accommodate new students that are moving to the area. For example, more national business chains are looking to come to the area. More jobs and families equals more students to attend. More students would mean more funding for the district per student. Now Samir will be talking to you about safety.
Safety. The current high school is an old and currently in need of major repairs. Some of the repairs on the current high school are needed due to the safety concerns for the students and staff members. A new high school would make impediment new school safety protocols would be easier to do. If we get more students with the old high school, it could get crowded in the hallways, which is a safety concern. Next, Lola will be talking about future. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you for all your comments. The board will now begin a discussion related to tonight's presentations and comments. Do you have any other comments?
Test. Certainly think that the board got a lot of information tonight. Even there in public comment, there's definitely some, things that, we'll take notes on. I would like the gentleman who asked about the feasibility to talk to the architect about the structural plan. And so that's definitely one of the things that we will try to do a better job of publishing is, the issues with the structure in which it didn't even allow us to take a step, down to complete any kind of feasibility. But the architect definitely spent a lot more time on that and, is the expert there. But we will look to publish some answers to that particular question, along with some of the other questions, and looking for those areas that, we can, and if places in which we can, cut back.
Just for full disclosure, of the last girls, Sophia is my granddaughter, and I've heard a bunch of feedback, but I was giving them a hard time about no school, you need to convince me why. And they decided to put the presentation together on themselves. They got some help from their mom to do the professional-looking poster, and I think they did the research on the internet, and they did a great job. They presented at Hackler, and we asked them to come back here. They presented Dr. Long and myself. One of the questions that I asked them at Hackler was, how are we going to pay for this? They said, well, we can sell bricks. So there's a thing out there that you can buy a brick and help pay for the school. And I reminded them that might not do it. We might need some more money. We might need to go to this community and ask for some money, and it's going to take a loan to do it. And I said, who's going to pay that back? I'm pretty old. I won't be around long enough to get it paid. I ask each one of them individually, are you willing to, once you're a successful tax-paying citizen, to pay for this into the future? And each one of them, you were there respectfully. Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. This is about infrastructure. This is about the future. This is opinions on both sides, and I can respect that. But a mean-spirited debate is not going to bring this community together at all.
Any other comments or questions from the board? At this time, we will move into an executive session. Excuse me. This executive session is to discuss personnel only. This executive session is to discuss personnel only at this time. Thank you. There will be no action taken at this time. Thank you.
Want to make sure that that was clear. First of all, guys, I really appreciate everybody coming out and making mention here, but the board will not be making any kind of action on this tonight or be taking any action. Thank you.